strangers. From strangers into brothers. From brothers into strangers once again. We saw the whole world, but we couldn't see the meaning. I couldn't even recognize my friends. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast. My name is Harley Neville.
And I'm Guy Pigden. And who was that? Fucking emo snowflake.
That was Tom DeLonge.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, got it. We got it.
From Blink-182 in his opening verse of their newish single, One More Time. The boys are back.
They're back, the boys.
They have a song addressing how they're falling out, and how they've kind of come back together, and how it shouldn't take a sickness or airplanes falling out the sky in order to remind each other why you love each other and that type of thing. So because Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, he got cancer. And recovered, but gave everybody a scare. And, of course, Travis Barker, the drummer, he got in a plane crash and got...
Burnt alive.
Yeah, seriously injured in that traumatic experience. So...
Well, they didn't get back. They did. What happened? They got back together after he got burnt alive, but just for a little while. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think they got back together around 2011-ish.
And did that one album. Is that what happened?
Did they release an album?
No, maybe
I don't remember.
I don't think
I feel like they didn't release. I feel
like maybe a couple of tracks.
Yeah. I feel like this new album is the first album they've put out since they kind of went on their indefinite hiatus.
So sadly, Tom's cancer trumped...
Mark's cancer.
Oh, sorry. Mark's cancer trumped Travis's burnt alive.
What?
So in terms of the severity of the consideration of getting back together as a band. So it was like, cool, you survived the crash. Sure, you got some horrible burns and it was incredibly traumatic. But bro, I had cancer. Right?
Yep.
I had cancer, so that's way worse. So now we have to do it.
To be fair, Mark and Tom are founding members of the band. Travis is a latecomer.
He's
only by two albums.
He's a Johnny come lately.
He joined on the third album.
So they didn't consider him a real member.
So it's only been 20-something years.
Yeah, that he's been in there.
Yeah. Shout out to Tyler Adams on the live stream. Thanks for tuning in, mate. He says it sounds good, and my assumption from it looked like you had muted the wrong mic earlier. Is that what happened? And they would have heard everything we were talking about when the holding screen was on?
Hard to say, but certainly possible.
That's all right. I was only saying about how much I hate the listeners.
Yeah.
So that's fine. What else we got? So we just came back from...
That's it, really.
That's it, really. We're doing a crack of dawn show. It's 11 a.m.-ish, or 11:30 now, and... I really literally just got out of bed, was enjoying a sleep in. It's been a hectic month or so, but we did just get back right now, or very within the last 24 hours, we got back from down south, Milford Track, a isolated, beautiful part of the world, a challenging place to film, and it all went very smoothly, and we went down there filming our new horror film, tentatively titled The Long Track. I assume that's probably what it will actually be called, but for now, The Long Track.
Oh, someone else come up with a good idea.
Yeah, another name?
Yeah. Followers.
Hey, that's not bad. Followers is not bad. Yep.
Because, you see, the problem is there's just been a film called...
Loop Track. Yeah.
Which obviously also a horror film set in a remote track, not the Milford Track.
Yeah.
But about a hiker and sort of things going wrong on the track. And so if we call ours The Long Track...
Yeah.
And there's already the loop track. People will be like, I've already seen it.
I already saw that. Yeah, he's hiking, right? Yeah, they're hiking. Yeah,
hikers. Bunch of hikers. Weird stuff starts happening. We get it.
Yeah. Well, Followers is a little more sort of contemporary as well. It's like it's up with the times.
Our friend Mike Newport came up with that one, so we have to credit him. If
Not
we
bad,
use
Mike.
That. Yeah. I thought it was pretty. I was like, damn
it! Why didn't I think of that?
Well, no, I was like, damn. Oh, we'll definitely steal it, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
No shame here, but I guess that's to TBD. TBD.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just came back from the track. It was quite, in fact, I believe you whipped this painting up last night, which depicts one of the mountains.
Yeah, I just got back. I was absolutely fucking pooped. We've been away for 3 days, sleeping in a hut, no electricity, lots of driving, flying, planes, trains, and automobiles. Lots of prep before that, and before that was other projects and the recce. It's just been a really hectic month, but I knew we had the podcast coming up, and I knew I had to smash out a bit of artwork for the people on the live stream to see. So if you're on the live stream, you will be able to see that in the background I have painted the summit of one of the mountains that I saw there. I crouched down in amongst the daffodils, and I just mentally took a picture of that. That's all done by memory, by the way. And I just mentally sort of took a memory of its mental snapshot and painted it up.
Yeah, what I love about that is you've somehow managed to like paint out of focus. That's a real trick.
Yeah,
the foreground is out of focus.
You know how I did that?
How?
It's actually like you get a little hose, and it's kind of like spray paint. You just sort of blow. You go down a hose, and it comes out and sort of sprays like that.
Interesting.
It's all about the techniques, you see.
Yeah. What did you get in school? See art again?
It was either 16% or 26%. I think it was 26. To be fair, so I got 26% in school.
No one has ever
art.
been given 16% in school C art. That has completed it.
Yeah,
that has actually completed it.
Yeah,
I'm sure people got 16% that didn't complete it.
Yeah, but I actually completed it. I handed in my final portfolio. Yeah. So we've got your art portfolio that you work on throughout the year, and each project you do throughout the year gets put into this final end-of-year portfolio, which you then submit. Well, I finished my portfolio. I did all the work, and art is interpretive. It's up to you to decide if it's good or bad. There is no good and bad in art. And I made it all. I completed it. I submitted it on time, and I got 26%. Now, you tell me, how's that fair? Art is subjective, not objective, okay? That's not on. I should have got a pass purely for handing it in.
Just because you essentially used colouring in crayons.
Well, the crayons
for a percentage of your work. That shouldn't be counted against you. That was an artistic choice.
That was an artistic decision, and sure, the overall portfolio was about a zombie who is drawn in crayon and lives in a mountain, also drawn in crayon, and comes down to the local town to terrorize people who are mostly in crayon. But still, I still don't agree with that decision.
What happened? Did that go in the bin? Did it?
I don't even think I took it home. I don't even think I showed it to my mum.
No,
I was too shamed.
Probably not worth.
I was too shamed from my poor 26%.
Was I recall, I got like 58 or something.
That surprises me because you're actually good at drawing.
It surprised me too, but I just went with the. I think this is the problem. Is like sadly they want to mold you into their sort of parameters and expectations of what to deliver. And my one was about like this guy who kind of looked like a gnome. Like in some tough streets, and I think he got beat up or he beat someone up, but that was kind of the thing, as he was in these kind of slums. He kind of looked like a gnome, and he got beat up at the end or something like that.
58%. That's a pass, though.
It is a pass, but I was deeply insulted by that.
Shout out to the Bigger Ninja. Now, the Bigger Ninja is actually very special because this person is our first commenter on Kick. Now that we're streaming on Kick as well, the Bigger Ninja, first commenter. If we're really lucky, he'll be our first follower as well. And so he wants to know, I edge. What are your thoughts? I think he means edging the Blink-182 single is my guess.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. The boys are back. They're back on form. Like all those albums in between where Tom wasn't there. I think Mark is the better musician. I think he's a better singer than Tom. And I think that Mark and Travis are both really, great.
It's the combo. It's the duet.
It's the combo. That's the thing. That's what works, is when you've got Tom screeching by himself on Angels and Airwaves, you're like, pfft. But if you put that screeching and combine it with Mark's not quite so screeching, it really works. And also, he brings an element to the writing, I think, where he's got this toilet humor thing, but he's also got this like deep and serious and thoughtful thing as well going on, which I can relate to.
Well,
as a big fan of toilet humor, of deep and thoughtful, meaningful toilet humor.
I hope it does well for them. I'll be listening.
Oh, it's already doing really well. I think they're making millions per night on tour.
Well, they're always going to make millions per night on tour.
Yeah.
Can't count tours.
Can't count them.
They're a legacy act.
Tours don't count.
Tours don't count because essentially someone that is completely out of touch with current musical tastes can be incredibly successful on tour for 30 more years or until they die, based on essentially going around playing to all the people that they established that fan base with. Yeah. So you can't count touring. You still have to look at, like, so for example, Eminem's last album, nobody cared, right?
No?
Not really. You know, I'm sure it got, like, relative to, you know, past success. And obviously it is going to be a law of diminishing returns with all these artists. The older they get, obviously no young person. There are young people, there are niche young people that'll be like, man, I love Elton John, right? There's going to be that. That's going to exist, but it's not going to be like most young people are going to be, who is Elton John? And so it's like, if Blink-182 releases an album now and everyone is essentially so appreciative that it's the real band again after being gone for so long, and they kind of, plus new people come along, so they've got all those old people that are like, yes, we're still here for you, and a bunch of new people that are like, who are these crazy young guys singing about growing up? Who are they? I love them. Guys, have you heard about Blink-182? I remember when I was like, to you guys, I was like, have you guys heard about Rage Against the Machine? And everyone was like, yes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they're really good. They're you know, they're you know, they're singing about, you know, really, you know, political stuff, you know. They're in a war against the government and the fascist regime. I'm really inspired by it as a youth. And everyone was like, yeah, that did come out like 10 years ago at the time. Oh, at the time. Oh, no, right. Not really. Right. It would have been, yeah, I guess so. So we're talking about 2002. I was listening to it and it came out like 92 because as we move on to 92, still in a room without a view. So angry about it. So angry.
Angry about this view. Really pissed off.
But yeah, I actually liked the sort of in-between Blink-182 albums. I think they had reached the top tier of Blink-182 them? No. But I still enjoyed them and gave them a hearty listen. But to me, those in-between albums had like normally 2 or 3, maybe 4 really good tracks, but overall not so good. Whereas I always felt like Blink-182 album, you could just listen to it start to finish, baby. Start to finish.
Yep.
So
Dude Ranch.
Looking forward.
That's my favorite.
Looking forward to listening to that. I have not listened to that.
Well, it just came out like yesterday. They'd released like 5 songs, and then I think yesterday roughly they released the rest of it. Yeah. They're back. They got the album. They got the singles with the videos. It's all go.
Tyler asked, did we drag a ton of batteries around with us?
So on the shoot.
On the film shoot.
Because there was no electricity on this film set, on this location we were filming.
No flushing toilets.
No flushing toilets. I forgot the toilet paper, so I just had to use my hand.
Yep.
I had to use my hand or a combination of stinging nettle and my hand to wipe my butthole.
Why don't you just use leaves? There's lots of leaves on the track.
Because I thought I was looking for the right leaves, and I picked the wrong ones. So I just got the stinging nettle.
I see.
Right on my butthole.
So yeah, we did take a lot of we sort of all the planning was very meticulous for this shoot, from the sort of what cameras we were going to use and why, to what style we were going to do, and also how we could sort of be experimental in filming while we were there with very limited resources. And so, yeah, basically what we did is we were only on the track for a day. So we only need or a day and a half. So the batteries only had to last 1 full day plus the next morning, or even actually they lasted until the next afternoon. And that's how far we had to get. We weren't filming like very dialogue heavy, long scenes. So each scene was kind of short, snappy, and then move along the track. And so we did sort of take a bunch of batteries, and we took a bunch of like backups in case something happened, like as in we sort of got it wrong, but we didn't end up tapping into our sort of backup batteries or anything like that. Basically, two large batteries powered the main camera for the duration of that shoot. And then we had a bunch of small batteries in place. But yeah, it was a pretty good shoot. Pretty cool experience. I think what was good about it was that it was like not how you normally make a film at all. And that's what made it interesting, because normally when you shoot a scene, you got to shoot it from a bunch of different angles. You have to be very focused on continuity. You kind of whittle it down, like start with a wide shot and then go into close-ups and, you know, kind of refine the performance from there. There's not that much room to like change things, because if you've established something in the wide shot, then if you do something completely different in the close-up, it's not going to match. So then that makes the wide shot completely useless. The same if you're shooting coverage on a, like, say, a close-up of Harley and a close-up of me. If Harley says something completely different on his close-up than he did when I was talking to him, then that won't sync up either. And so, you know, normally there's a sort of a formula and a regimented application that has to be applied to make a scene make sense and work, and we weren't under those restrictions because it was just one camera. That one camera filmed the whole thing.
It was found footage. Didn't establish that.
So if you do it one way, there's a spoiler alert, Harley.
That's not a spoiler.
That it's found footage.
Yeah.
Well,
you're literally going to depth talking about why you don't have to do continuity and stuff.
But
you just didn't explain why. You just go, yeah, we're just not worried about continuity on this one.
No, but what I'd say is, like, if you didn't say found footage, you could still say everything that I just said and just be like, yeah, we all did. It was just in one take. It's just one-ers the whole time.
I don't think that's a secret. We've been posting about it.
Spoiler alert. It's found footage.
That's not a spoiler. That's the establishment. Found footage.
But yeah, so that was very freeing to be able to film in that capacity and just get people to try different things, which is way more fun than filming the conventional way.
Well, I loved it from an acting perspective because you got,
of course, you did,
yeah, to know the lines, but you know, not really. You didn't have to nail the lines perfectly, and if you stumbled over a line that was actually okay, it just added a little moment of realism to it, and you could kind of cruise your way through. And also the fact that you didn't have to match it every time meant that you could do something totally different on the next take. And you didn't have to worry about trying to match it up. So that gave you a lot more freedom, both in what you say, but also in where you move and how you move and where you look. And even being able to look at the camera sometimes and stuff like that was all kind of, you know, good, very freeing, very liberating, which allowed a lot of fun with the acting.
Yeah, no, obviously as an actor, that's what I sort of said to all the actors. I was like, look, you know, you're going to have to go down and do some walking and shit. And I know actors don't like walking. And I know actors like to be pampered. And I know actors like to have, you know, the makeup run in and give them a touch up. And, you know, they sit down with their coffee in their acting chair. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they basically talk shit for like 9.5 hours, scoffing lollies. Let's not forget scoffing lollies. 9.5 hours to do, you know, 30 minutes worth of acting broken up through the day.
Yeah,
like I understand why people would like that style. I certainly don't begrudge them enjoying that, but I was like, it's not going to be like that. But you'll never have more freedom as you perform these scenes. You know, you won't have those same limitations and restrictions, and that's what's going to be fun, but you just have to always be sort of ready to do that. And we also gave everyone cameras, so while we were filming bits and pieces, they could film their own bits and pieces, which everyone did do. And ultimately what that means is more options in the edit. You know, we were still like constrained quite a lot by time. Like it would have been good to be down there for another day at least. So what that meant is like, okay, we got the bare bones minimum from our scene script rise from filming, but whatever they got on top of that can help color in those scenes a little bit more and add a little bit more to those scenes without us, doing a 20-hour day.
Yep. Shout out to Darren Moss, who's on the, aka Huda Moss, who's on the live stream. He says, "Whoa, you're back. All the wars on are keeping you busy." I think he's referring to trying to keep up with Ukraine war and then now the Gaza, Palestine-Israel war and stuff like that. That's my guess. But to be honest, I've been too busy for Palestine-Israel.
Haven't dipped into that one yet.
That second tier war, that is. We want that first tier, largest war in Europe war, Ukraine-Russia. That's World War III, the beginning of World War III. We're in the phony war stage of World War III, and it's very interesting to watch it. Whereas Palestine-Israel, I have just been too busy, and also it just seems like that part of the world's always fighting, and it's always kind of regional fighting.
Always conflict of some degree.
Yeah. But the largest war in Europe since World War II, that's something to keep your eye on, because that's the most interesting, arguably the most important thing happening in the world right now, and only most of the world's not paying attention, which is disconcerting.
Well, look, man, there's a lot of things to compete for your attention. TikTok, YouTube,
World War III,
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, World War III, the largest conflict in Europe with a nuclear-powered belligerent.
New shows on Netflix.
Yep,
streaming
that too. Mm-hmm. New technology revolutionizing the face of war, such as drones and other things like that.
The Fall of the House of Usher, streaming on Netflix now.
Well, there you go. So
Mike Flanagan just come out. So
yeah, there you go. But yes, a very all round. That was only block one. So there's another block coming up mid-November, and we're going to film in Auckland as well. And so we won't be going back down to the Milford Track again. But it was a really great experience, and that was our first 3-day block. And now we've got another 3-day block coming up next month, and then probably, well, almost certainly another day of like pickups and bits and pieces. As well. So, but yeah, a resounding success, exciting, funded by Catalyst. We talked about it on a previous episode. The New Zealand taxpayer is paying for us to go and do, make horror movies. We're living the dream.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool and definitely a very cool experience. It was quite funny that because we're sort of coming into summer now in New Zealand, but that area, the Milford Sound area or Tiana area, is very inclement weather, which is still snowing occasionally down there, and so we prepared as if the weather was going to be horrific down there,
which it was quite bad on the recce that we did.
And we went on a recce, and it sort of rained the whole day that we did that recce, and it was quite cold and miserable. And it was, to be honest, it was cold at nights, it was cold in the mornings. It was really not very nice. And so we sort of anticipated that would entirely be possibly what it would be like when we went back down. And so,
well, apparently it rains like 340 days of the year or something in that area.
Yeah, it's, so, like to get good weather there is not that likely.
It's uncharacteristic.
And also, we only had this one shot, so it didn't matter if it was what the weather was going to be doing. We couldn't go, oh, well, the weather's not ideal, so we'll come back next week. We'll fly back again next weekend. Also, this was our last chance before the track opens, and when the track opens, we were no longer able to film there. Like they had sort of told us that, like, on the off season is fine, but when it's on season, you're cutting into this.
The tourism money.
You're cutting into our dollars now, son. Yeah. So we can't have that. So we'll happily charge you money on the off season, but just your money is not enough on the on season.
Well, that's why
we're making too much money.
That's why there was no electricity, because they switch off the electricity in the off season. No ranger. Normally there's like a ranger who kind of bases themselves at each hut and kind of looks after people on their way through.
I believe the toilet facilities are better.
Yeah, they've got flushable toilets normally,
but they lock them up.
They lock them in the winter.
So you just got the long drop.
The long drop. I was sitting on that long drop, gagging, like had my shirt up. You know, so I was covering my nose, just like gagging from the smell of my own shit, of course, not from the, it was mostly from the smell of the hideous long drop, just a huge pile of excrement that I was a meter away from. I could feel myself like vomiting almost.
Yeah, I just didn't really breathe through my mouth.
Yeah, well, I don't think I was breathing through my mouth.
I mean,
I don't know if it makes,
sorry.
I don't know if it makes much difference.
Didn't breathe through my nose.
Yeah, but either way, it was kind of gross.
kind of like, I'm switching that off as I enter this domain.
Yeah.
And do my business.
I tell you what was quite funny was on the last day we went to a little pier in Tiano where we were going to film a very short scene. We were probably there for an hour, but with a bit of diddling around, and the actual filming didn't really take that long. We just had to do multiple takes, but because it was just sort of one
half
shot,
an hour,
exactly, it's probably half an hour. We were on the pier filming for half an hour, and we got there first. We were there, no problem. Nobody was around. We get there and we filmed for half an hour, and then this a guy showed up with his wife and his baby, and I think wanted to take a photo out on the pier, but he didn't come and talk to us and say, "Hey, can we take a photo?" He sort of hung around and then we were doing our takes again and again. And in these takes, we're playing social media influencers. So we're like, hi, everybody. Welcome along to the channel. Just obnoxious ball bag travel vloggers. But of course, it's all an act. It's all within the movie. But anyway, this guy and his family were there wanting to get a photo maybe. And then he sort of stood around for a while. His wife left. And then he stood there with his wee baby for a while. And then we were just minding our business, filming on this pier. And then he goes, wankers, and then stormed away. It was like, now I couldn't tell. There's two reasons he'd call us wankers that I could see. There's two different ways, similar but slightly different. One is he just wanted to take a picture there, and we were using the pier for half an hour, and he didn't. He was angry that he unfortunately could not use the pier while someone else is using it, and he's an immature child, and he instead of just being like, oh well, tough cookies for me today, the pier was in use, I can't take a picture, he decided to resort to name calling. Or the other option would have been to come up and say to us, hey guys, look, we've got to go soon, but do you reckon me and my wife and baby could just grab a real quick photo? It would be like, oh yeah, sure man, jump in, grab a photo. But he didn't do either of those things. He said wankers and left. So he was either angry because he couldn't take his picture, or and I guess it's possible there's a combination thing going on here, or he thought we really were like social media influencers who would, like this, like, hi, we're talking like this because we're dickheads from the internet. We're wankers from the internet. And so he was so still a child, still childish about it, but he was like just basically starting a fight with strangers because he doesn't like YouTube influencer type people. Wankers! And then he walked away, and I was like, hey, and he kept on walking with his baby.
But also, he immediately turned and sped off because he was scared that these hulking filmmakers would knock him the fuck out.
Well,
him and his baby, because baby in hand, he would fall over with the baby. The baby would kind of fall out on the side.
No, my plan was to take the baby off him by the leg and then beat him with his own baby. That was the plan.
That was the thing. He was out of there quick,
but
like
he was
a true
gone.
Coward. Like that's the thing. It's like,
wankers.
Hey, if you're gonna throw out wankers to us, stand there like a man and be like, yeah, I said it.
Yeah,
you guys are motherfucking wankers. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
And the truth is, what we're doing is go, oh, did you want to go on the pier?
Sorry, mate. Come have a photo.
Hey, jump in. Hey, it's all good.
Sorry.
It's all good here. But instead, he sped off. Because he knew that he
was an idiot.
Well, he didn't.
A cowardly idiot.
He didn't. He couldn't really mess with. There was too many.
There's too many of us.
There's too many.
And he was in the wrong.
Tough dudes around.
But also, what a terrible example to set to your child. And also, what a dumb way to risk the life of your child, because you don't know who these people are. You're calling people names on the pier, and it's like, what if one of them picks up the baby and beats you to death with it?
We're tough. We look like tough men.
Yeah.
Right? We're a bunch of tough guys.
Big tough guys. You wouldn't mess with us.
You wouldn't, if you saw us on the street, you wouldn't decide to
cross
pick
the
a fight.
road.
Exactly.
Cross the road. Actually, multiple people have tried to pick fights with me on the street over the years.
Yeah. No one's really done that to me, but
no?
Not since I was 19.
Yeah. Well, there was that time that we were walking back from a party and we got in a carload of guys pulled up down near Queen Street and wanted to fight us because we crossed the road in front of them, even though they were miles away. We crossed the road and they do you remember that?
Too drunk, don't remember.
Too drunk. It was like light. We were coming home from a party. We were crossing the road and a car pulled over and there were these big fat islanders in there and they were really
remember that.
Really, they were like angry, and he was like, come here. And like, he was trying to get himself out of the car, but he was so fat that he was like, fuck it. Yeah, you come here, come to me. You come here. And then, yeah, he wanted to punch me, but from the car. He was like, can you come here so that I can punch you without having to get out of the car? What a world we live in.
Hey, look, man, convenience punching, you know?
What a world. So yes, anyway, it does happen. But yeah, that was funny.
But ultimately, the weather was like the best weather that Tianau has ever had on that day. Like it was hotter down there on the track than it was up here in Auckland. On a sunny day. The sun was beating down upon us.
I was walking in a singlet. I had thermals on underneath, top and bottom, merino, ultra warm thermals, which I had gone out and bought specifically because I was like, well, maybe my normal thermals aren't quite good enough, you know? So I went out and spent a bunch of money on extra fancy thermals, got like 20 minutes into the track, had to take them all off, you know, get naked in the track and take off that whole bottom layer. And then I was walking in a singlet, which was a real pain in the ass because anytime we wanted to film, you know, anything that was like in character and it's supposed to be cold, then I'd have to like put all my clothes back on and put my beanie back on and take my sunglasses off and all that type of stuff. So yeah, that was uncharacteristically and disconcertingly warm, a sign of climate change, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably was.
Shout out to the new follower that just followed us.
It did make filming easier for that day because if you you know, obviously everyone's in good spirits when it's sunny. The bad attitudes start coming out when it starts to drizzle.
Fucking miserable.
People start to grizzle when it starts to drizzle.
There you go. You should be a rapizzle, my man.
So yeah, but it was pretty cool. Pretty good. And
how's that footage looking? So you've looked over it now.
Yeah, I've looked at the
more
footage.
importantly, how's my acting looking?
You know, it's all right.
It's all right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I'd say it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
If there's anything wrong with it, we're just going to blame it on the poor direction.
Yeah. Well, look, that's the thing. I can't make you be great. I can only give you the platform. Can't make you be a great actor. I can only provide you the platform to perform. You know? There is a misconception. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are, you know, in terms of direction, you can give good direction and bad direction, all that sort of thing. But ultimately, you know, for example, if you know, if someone is not emotionally in the scene, you can't do the shit that directors used to do, like slap the person. Like that's you know, that's how people get cancelled now. Yeah, and to be honest, that's how people. If you just scream in their face to try and get them angry, again, that is how you get cancelled now. Yeah, the old director tricks are no longer really, you know. And there's like you've heard stories of like, and this is Dustin Hoffman to Meryl Streep allegedly talking about her dead husband who just recently died to get her pissed off at him. Now that wasn't the director, that was Dustin was acting opposite her. Right. But you know, again, this is how people get cancelled. So, you know, there are obviously things that you can do and you try and create a good environment, but ultimately it's on the actors to do the fucking acting. It's true. You know, and you know, what, like, it's a weird thing because you can talk about all different things to kind of help them. I think how you're really helping them is just framing where they've come from and where they're going in the scene and the things maybe they should be thinking about. But ultimately, you know, you can't be like, hey, yeah, I just need you to really cry heaps here. Can you just do that? I mean, you could say that, but that direction might not work. Is not necessarily, and it's not necessarily helpful to that actor. And it's not necessarily like that direction doesn't trigger the actor to go, oh, okay, I get it might have the opposite effect, or it's just sort of like, you know, the actor has to find the acting within themselves. Obviously, I think, and I've always said this, but directing is 90% casting. So really, if you cast well, then they'll come in and they'll be ready because you cast the right people for the job to perform these roles because you saw that in the casting. It wasn't that you're some magical special director with this amazing. Like I've read all the working directing actors and all those different books and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down on the actors to act. The director is kind of in charge of the story, pushing it forward. The director is sort of keeping an eye on all these different elements to make sure that they'll fit within the context of the story. But it's not the director's job to be like, hey, you can't get there. Let me lay out all these things that will help you get there. Like, I mean, you could absolutely try, but it's really on the actors to do that, at least in my opinion.
Well, speaking of directing actors, what about directing actors who are themselves the actor, such as in the case of Older, in which case the director was also the lead actor.
Yeah.
And in Older, yesterday I was at a birthday party when I got back from all this filming, and then next day went to a birthday party, and I was talking to a filmmaker there, Jacob Schwajda. I don't know how to say that, but that's my guess. And I told him about Older. I was wearing this very same T-shirt, my Older T-shirt right now, and he actually went home and watched it.
There we go.
Which is surprising.
Yeah.
And
it's normally the opposite of what happens when we mention Older and or any of our films.
Yeah,
we mention it and people proceed to write it down to avoid.
Yeah, do not watch. Do
Older. Not watch. Do not interact about this conversation.
I'll put that on my do not watch list.
Put this down on definitely don't see list. Yeah.
So he watched it and he messaged me afterwards. Yeah. Him and his partner. Hey mate, just finished watching Older, and honestly, it's really good. We didn't expect much.
Yeah, it's always good. Keep those expectations low.
But it's
pleasantly surprised.
But it's a really good movie. The story was well written, the acting was good, and the director of photography did a great job as well. Shout out to Adam St. John, 5150 listener.
Yep.
Especially capturing the intense moments of emotions and drug interactions. It's a professional thing. Thank you for suggesting it to us. So thank you, Jacob, for those kind words.
And to answer your question, Harley, the way I approach that is right before we call action, my brain is in director mode, and I'm thinking about it in the context of all those things that I've just said. Once action is called, literally that is gone. That side of my brain has been tucked away. It no longer exists. And in terms of the acting, my approach is just to be as honest and truthful as possible, and try and feel the feelings and emotions from bell to bell, from action to cut, as I can. Mm-hmm. And then look at that, and then review that and go, oh, that was shit. And try again.
Yeah.
Or go, more often than not, I was really feeling those things and I was really in the moment, but it looks like shit. Me feeling those things and being in the moment. So I need to just bring it back. Just feel them less, because feeling them too much, it all depends on your face too and how emotive it is. But if it's too emotive, in a close-up, can really seem like you're hamming it up. And so sometimes it's just minimize, and then of course there's always the Clint Eastwood trick as well.
What? Squint at everything.
Just do fucking nothing. People will just assume whatever you think and feel because you've done nothing. Because you've done nothing, they've projected their own thoughts and feelings onto your performance. Thank you.
Coffee delivery.
Coffee delivery for Mr. Neville.
Shout out to my awesome girlfriend, she who shall be named.
Eventually.
Who just delivered those.
Sometime in the eventual years to come, she'll be named. So yeah, there's always the do nothing trick. That's always, to be honest, that's the other thing is when you think about acting for the screen, it's not the same as just theater or whatever, in the sense that it's look, man, sometimes you just have to look out a fucking window, right? And we will, we'll project that on, but or sometimes your face does weird stuff. So stop it. So cut that fucking out.
Yeah.
Because even if it's really real, it's not reading well. So, but be truthful with your emotions. So, like, if I'm in love with this character, then when I look at that person, I'm in love with them until we call cut. That's really or do nothing. One of those two. That's the Ryan Gosling special. Ryan Gosling has done nothing in so many films, and they're like, give this man an Oscar.
Well, wasn't he in The Notebook?
He's in The Notebook. He did a little bit of something in The Notebook.
Yeah.
But like, say, Blade Runner...
I fell in love with him in The Notebook.
Blade Runner 2049, he does absolutely nothing.
Didn't watch it.
Only God Forgives, he does even less. And he's playing a robot in 2049. He's not a robot in Only God Forgives. But when you look at that stuff, you're just like, brilliant. In Drive, again, one of his critically acclaimed roles, does absolutely fucking nothing. He's about to fight someone. He's just like, yeah, hold this.
Yeah.
Just nothing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So just do nothing. That's the advice, actually.
Do nothing. I did get that as direction once.
Hey, look, do less.
Do less.
There's always do less.
Do less.
Do less is going to be a favorite. So there's two going to be, like, that's the thing about this whole, like, directing actors thing. Like, one, you should always be trying to get out of their way. If you give them too many directions, they're not going to remember all of them. If you give them 5 adjustments, they're not going to probably remember those 5. They're going to remember one or two and be like, well, what was the other thing you said? And action. Oh, fuck. Oh, we're doing it again.
Just this, see what happens.
So there's that problem. But, like, oh, shit, I forgot my train of thought there.
Well, don't over-direct the actors.
Oh, no, the two things, sorry. So do less will be one.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed like a bit too much, so let's just bring it back.
Yeah.
That's always going to be.
And the other option is do more.
And the other option is do it faster.
Yeah.
Stop fucking around through your lines to give yourself the most amount of screen time, and just do it quick, because, this is just one scene. This is just one stretch of the road. And we've got to go through, 90 minutes of this. So if you're, and that's one of the mistakes you see of sort of like, I would say amateurish editing, is that they pause for all these acting moments everywhere. And it's like, no, fuck those acting moments. They will come across as you go through the scene, but don't literally stop the whole momentum of the scene to have a guy be like, line, and that is a very, or like beautiful shot. Didn't need to be there, but it looked beautiful, and it was so hard to get, and then they sort of keep that in there, and so it's like, no, just lose the beautiful shot. I'm sorry, I know it took a long time to get that beautiful shot, and I know you worked your ass off, and the crew was pissed off by the end of it, and I know that you thought it was going to be like the moment, but it no longer is. It's no longer relevant, so you just got to cut it.
Move on. Kill your babies.
Kill your darlings.
Yep. Kill your babies. We have reached 100,000 subscribers on the Pigville Productions YouTube channel.
Silver plaque incoming.
Yeah,
if you've got the right address.
No, you've got to apply. So you've got to go. It's free, but you have to pay some sort of taxes, import taxes maybe. If there's, not New Zealand. But it is free, but you've just got to apply. But you do have to be eligible. So they might say, nah, because they want like an active channel, so they might say, you haven't uploaded anything in the last 6 months and stuff like that.
True.
So I've got to upload something and then apply. So go to the YouTube channel, the main Pigville YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Pigville and the number 2, Pigville 2. And if you haven't subscribed, please go and subscribe and check out some videos.
Inbound.
But yeah, we're going to get 100,000K silver play button sent our way, all going well. So that's exciting. Before the film festival, before the shoot, immediately prior to the shoot was the film festival that I work for, Show Me Shorts. That was heaps of work. I was really concerned about it because I just had lots to do and lots of big events to run, and I'm the event manager, so those events are my problem. But that went really well. That was awesome. They all went all great. Lots of good networking and schmoozing and good turnout and all of that type of stuff. So that was great. And speaking of networking through the festival asked me, they said, oh, Harley, there's this event. They sent me like a flyer and they were like, it's for the Grayling, which is, the suburb, the Grayling kind of businesses association, something like that. It was like a networking event at a wine place. There was a flyer. The flyer said, come along for some networking, meet local people, do some networking. We want to create a community of businesses here, networking at the wine place. Okay, come on down, guys. Everybody come on down. So I was like, cool, sounds good. Look, this can be a social event. I'm there representing the festival, which is based in that suburb. Go down, we'll do some hobnobbing, we'll drink some wine, there'll be some little hors d'oeuvres, and we'll, and that'll be that. So she who shall be named and we got dressed up and, put on our glad rags and went down to this wine place for some networking and schmoozing. Well, we walked in and it was dead silent. We were like, okay, that's really weird. I was like, hey, we're here for the networking thing. And they're like, yeah, it's upstairs. It wasn't a bar. It was a wine shop. I was like, okay, it's a wine shop. You can still drink wine in a wine shop. Walked upstairs, no music on. There was a long table with maybe 12 people on it, all sitting around with papers, shuffling papers, they were all quite old. Like, we were the youngest people there by a long shot. Nobody was drinking wine, and there was nothing to nibble on. And in no way would I call it a networking event. It was actually more of a business association meeting. My girlfriend had been working all day. Right, so it was like, oh no, come out, babe. We'll just have a relaxing time. It'll be cool. We have some food. We're hungry. Cool, great. Let's go. And we found ourselves attending an extremely boring community meeting with local politician representatives, community representatives, and business association representatives, and they were talking in depth about the upcoming roadworks in the region and how those roadworks were going to affect the business and how the businesses should react to these roadworks, and also trying to get people to pay and join to become part of the business association by paying an annual membership. And we had to just sit there through this extremely dry balls, boring meeting with all these old people pretending, and we were dressed wrong, we were dressed there for socializing.
Older t-shirt.
Well, no, I think I was wearing a shirt. I think I dressed up like wearing a shirt, like, we're going to a networking event. I'll wear a nice shirt, some Ponsonby. Yeah, so
how did you come across that?
That got sent to me through my boss at the film festival, because she thought it was a networking thing as well, because it says wine and networking. She
stitched you up, mate.
It says wine and networking like 5 times on the flyer, and so yeah, extremely misleading. I was tempted to email them because they emailed me and like, hey, good to see you. Do you want to join the association? And I was tempted to write them back and be like, hey, now listen, about this flyer you're sending out. It's extremely misleading. You've wasted my fucking time.
And where was the wine?
Where was the wine? It's at a wine place. I had to take my girlfriend out and pay for dinner after that. Because, we were expected to eat. So instead we went to Ponsonby.
You had to issue a public apology over dinner over that.
I ended up spending like $100 on dinner that night, because we went and got to the Argentinian barbecue place, and the meal's like $50 each, because we were hungry.
Good spot, that one.
It is a good spot, but we were hungry. It was time, it was like, it was not on. So I'm going to bill them for $100, and I'm going to tell them to redesign their friggin' flyer.
Well, my co-producer at Campfire Studios, Will, goes to those.
Yeah.
Those sort of business association meetings, and they are a bit of a kind of a collective circle jerk.
Yeah.
Of like everyone kind of just saying the same stuff and kind of shilling and having to pay a fee to be there, and also trying to get you on the list, and it's a bit of a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a pyramid. Some of those are a little bit of a pyramid scheme, but he's still doing it. He still thinks it's worthwhile. There was another one. One of my podcasts, that I was producing for, was legitimately trying to get me into a pyramid scheme. He was like, "Hey, so you join this, and you pay a fee, and then you get all these things unlocked, and you get to go to these meetings."
Yeah,
and I was like, "That sounds like a pyramid scheme."
Yeah,
and he goes, "No, because it's not a pyramid scheme." And I was like, "But don't you get paid if I join up?"
Yeah,
and don't you, if like say 5 people join up, have to not pay anymore?
Yeah,
and he was like, "Yeah." But it's not a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how is it a pyramid scheme?
Yeah.
And he didn't really have an answer. It was almost like at that time that I posed that to him, you saw internally him realizing that he himself was in a pyramid scheme. You know, and because, you know, it was like I can't remember how much it was, but it wasn't that cheap. And it was like you get access to, you know, all this industry insider knowledge and business acumen from all these people, plus this, you know, stuff online, all these things. And I was like, look, man, you can get all that stuff free on YouTube. All you have to do is be willing to do a bit of you know, searching, you know, like a little bit of research, you know, I can do that for free. Yeah. So, so be mindful of those business association with membership fees because you might just be signing up to one of them things.
In this particular case, I think it was a very legitimate thing where they just use the money in order to be able to represent the businesses against the government and other, you know, forces that want to do things like rip up the road. But to be honest, I mean, if the government's trying to rip up the road to renovate the road, it's going to take 2 years apparently. This is Great North Road in Auckland. Yeah. They're going to rip it up and it's going to be taking 2 years because it's a long road. So it's going to be 2 years worth of interruptions for all of these businesses for all that time. And that's what they're unhappy about, which is fair enough. But the last thing we need is these damn businesses getting in the way, making it even slower. Right? Well, get out of the fuck up. Like, you know, like the work's got to be done. You can't teleport the pipes under the road. You got to rip up the road to get them in there. So get out of the way, you business bums, you rich business associate wankers.
It's a terrible time to have a business at the moment. We're in a recession.
I don't think we are officially in a recession.
We're not officially. We're in a pre-recession recession.
Yeah, the
pre-session.
Yeah,
we're in a pre-session.
Yeah,
and like sometimes I just do the maths on some of these things, like, you know, a coffee place, you know, and we were sort of, I was chatting with Will about, he was like, well, we should open a coffee place in one of our podcasting studios. I was like, oh, if it's in the studio, yeah, sure. But like, I was like, let's just crunch the numbers on how many coffees we have to sell per day in that place to make that like viable if it was paying rent, paying for the coffees, you know, and it's like we'd have to sell like several hundred coffees per day. And even then, like, don't forget you got to pay for the barista, you know, like, and then I start doing the maths on some of these things for restaurants and stuff like that. And it's like, damn, like the overheads on these places are insane.
So no wonder everything's so damn expensive.
Yeah, sadly, Papa's down the road is closed, and I am assuming that's as a result of the recession.
Papa's?
Yeah, Papa's Eatery. You didn't know about that one?
No, I don't think so.
It was just opposite the Eden Park. It was like an Italian place, and it had a nice
I know the one. I know the one.
And then wasn't it, like, they must be so browbeaten. They didn't even like put like a little sign up, you know, like, hey, you know, closed or this or that, just like nothing. It's literally just closed one day.
Just took the seats out.
And I every day I drive past there and I'm like, will it reopen? Is this? Nah, Papa's is gone, man. Papa's Eatery. Beautiful place. Beautiful Italian. Beautiful backyard. Had all this quirky statues out the back.
What is the name of your brother-in-law?
Dwight.
Dwight. Shout out to Dwight. But more specifically, shout out to Dwight's mate. I forgot to ask Dwight the name of Dwight's mate. But Dwight's mate has apparently been hanging out for us to do a show. He's been waiting.
Oh, yeah. It could be... oh, shit. Who would it be? It'll come to me. We'll come back to that.
Well, shout out to him anyway.
Shout out to Dwight and his mate.
Yeah, there you go. Appreciate that. I was really upset because I rewatched Benjamin Button a little recently.
That seems out of character for you.
Yeah, well...
Very out of character.
it did sort of upset me, mostly, you know, as a bald man, that sort of upset me that this sort of ageist, you know, casting that they did, where they had Brad Pitt playing an elderly character. Yep. You know, despite not being an elderly actor. It's ageism.
Yeah, it is.
Baldism.
Ageism. Yeah. Well, what you said is baldism because they made him bald when he was old. Yeah. Where you could be bald at any time in your life.
And also, they should have cast a bald actor to play a bald person.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, like rather than that's an ism right there. That's like casting an able-bodied person to play a disabled person. You know, or a white person to play a person of color. You know, it's not okay in this day and age. Okay, and Matt Damon did the same thing in Saving Private Ryan as well.
It's true.
Yeah. So
So you just had to flag that.
Yeah, just had to flag it. I just wanted to bring that up. Long-time listeners will remember as well, Sperm Quest, my long-time plan to pass on my genes by becoming a sperm donor. In order to, like I've got these amazing genes, and then, it sort of seems like a shame to waste them, not pass them on. But I'm 40 years old. It's time to kind of get on with passing those genes. So I did this big thing. It's if you've been listening to the podcast, it took several years, but I did finally donate the sperm and have my first child was born in December last year. And a healthy baby boy was born. Well, good news, everybody. Good news. In March of 2023, baby twins were born. Twins, a boy and a girl, were born. Nobody was expecting that. I don't know if those twins came from my side or not, but twins. So now I've got 3 kids via
Twins,
Sperm
Basil.
Quest. Twins. I've got three kids now via the Sperm Quest adventure of mine. So I think it's really nice. So for the long-time listeners, they can see the very inception of this harebrained scheme right through till now, where I have now successfully passed on my genes via 3 kids into 2 separate families, which means if there's some sort of local catastrophe where one of the kids lives and they get wiped out, that's all right, because there's 2 more kids down in, somewhere else, a different city maybe, or potentially. It's presumably at least a different suburb. So, yeah, that's the update there on Sperm Quest. Congratulations, Harley.
I don't know if I need to congratulate on that one.
I changed my Facebook profile picture a little while ago, and it got like 30 likes.
Yeah.
30 likes. In the old days, I wouldn't wipe my ass with 30 likes, but Facebook has become lackluster. It's dead. It's dying.
It's not only is it dying, it's essentially it's your dad's social network.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And
part of it as well might be that I'm yesterday's news now. A bald old nobody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's
worse
part
than
of
a nobody. I'm a never was.
I mean, that's part of it for sure. But I really think the true issue is, that's no longer the platform. And we've seen the peak. It's way on the other side in the valley now. Zuck's really banking on Meta coming through for him, which so far it's not.
It's not.
And so, it's time to try and get 90 to 100 likes on Instagram.
Yeah, well, Instagram's fine. It's just as it's only photos and you don't really pay attention to the caption, whereas the gold for me is from the caption combined with the photo.
Yeah.
On Facebook, you've got the caption, then you've got the photo. You're like, oh, brilliant, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, Insta, it's like, yeah, photo, whatever, scroll.
Yeah.
What's up with this bald old guy's photo? Why did I follow him again?
Well, also, that... I saw an interesting not a documentary. It was a sort of a YouTube essay which sort of talked about like who killed cinema, and they were basically talking about like who are the sort of, so some people say it was the death of the movie star, because and they did a poll recently where they're like, who would you spend money on going to see, and basically the top 20. There was only like 2 who were under 40, and most of them were over 50. So all these, and that was titled "Our Movie Stars Are Dying," right? But yes, there is this idea that like when you and I were kids, we would go see a movie because it starred someone, and it didn't necessarily matter what the movie was because the attraction was the movie star, and that has slowly sort of disappeared through various reasons. And now, yes, there are still some people you may choose to see something like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible or something like that, but ultimately you're not just going to see movies or streaming movies even because of the movie star. So that's one thing. The other thing is, can you guess what the other one is?
What killed cinema?
What killed cinema?
Yeah.
And this is American cinema we're talking about, just to make things a bit easier.
Well, I mean, this doesn't sound right then, but I was going to say just obviously the internet and the fact that you can do literally a million other things. It used to be like, God, I'm bored today and I don't even have a cell phone. What should I go and do?
Go see a movie.
Oh, maybe we'll go to the movies. Come on, family, let's go. We'll go and we'll watch the latest movie. Cool, that'll be fun. Now it's like everybody's got a phone and say, hey, do you want to go to a movie? And everyone's like looking at their phone and they're like, look, we're all literally watching 5 movies at once while also chatting on wherever and posting on Instagram and dick pics on OnlyFans and like whatever. Like, no, let's not go out and spend literally $100 for 4 of us to go to the cinema.
Well, we'll dovetail that one into. So I'll say yes, that is one of them.
Yeah.
But it's what they equated it to was essentially the rise of streaming platforms, because the rise of streaming platforms, has essentially made all movies accessible. All movies worth less than they cost to make, and don't give any returns anymore. And also our sense of value of, as you just said, it's like, that was an event. You were going to an event that you couldn't experience at home. Now it's like you can experience that event 10 times in your home, spending essentially, $12 a month or whatever it is. And so,
or less if you've got a friend who gives you their login.
Exactly. And then there's also the other kind of side of that, which is what I think is the more damaging aspect of that, which is just the proliferation of content. So, which is also, speaks to the internet. But
most of the content I consume now is free on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's not, and I use an ad blocker.
And essentially, we're living
to make
in
it even worse.
Era of YouTube babies who are not even going to engage with cinema in the same way that we did, because that's right. They just go on YouTube for their entertainment and their information and their news and everything else. And so we're seeing that too. But it's sort of like, I think the problem is that, if a movie comes out every week on streaming, at a certain point, you stop even caring that a new movie's coming out on streaming, because it's like, one, a lot of the times they're not great, but it's also like sometimes, for example, TV is like, oh my God, I can't keep up with all the good television on streaming.
Yeah.
And so
I've been watching the Ozarks for 5 years.
There you go.
I've got 4 episodes left in the final season. Got 4 episodes, and the same with Narcos Mexico, the latest one, which is 5 years old now. I've still got to finish that.
And that goes obviously back to your thing, which is like, if you had nothing else to do, you bet your fucking ass you would have seen. Yeah. Also, if you were renting that as a box set on DVD,
got to get through it.
Got to get through it, man. You paid for that.
Yeah.
But and even though technically you have paid for the Ozarks, there's no sort of immediacy or sense that you need to watch that now.
No.
So that was one of the other sort of aspects of it. They also talked about the studios themselves, but the other biggie was Marvel films.
Yeah.
Marvel films.
Oh, thank God that bubble is finally bursting.
Slowly bursting. And look, we've been lamenting it. Well, they sort of talked about Marvel films, but not just Marvel films, but franchises. Yeah. So the resuscitation of franchises like Star Wars, just constantly over and over and over again. So then they no longer have any sort of meaning.
Yeah, it's oversaturation.
Obviously, the superhero movies, because it's just 20 superhero movies in a world. They all have the same formula, and they can't deviate too far from that formula, because then the fans get pissed off.
Yeah.
And they did also speak to a little bit of like that sort of kind of the nerd outrage of film. Like, if you make films that are sort of confronting and difficult now, you get fucking shit on for it. You don't like, people don't champion that in the same way. People, bomb Rotten Tomatoes because it's not what they were expecting to digest. It's not their comfort food sort of thing, which, it's fine for movies to provide that, but not all movies should provide that. Movies should provide you like a fucking slap in the face sometimes, or walk out going, "Fuck, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel bad. I feel
challenged.
I feel depressed. I really got to turn that over mine." And basically, those movies are now, sort of getting crushed because people want just to see their superheroes win or whatever it is. And so there is, again, like now streamers are like, and now because the bubble has burst on streaming, and this is what Tyler was sort of talking about. He says, I was bummed when I came back to finish watching Willow and it was gone. Is that
I'm worried about that with Ozark.
Yeah, now these streaming things are only profitable for a certain amount of time, and then if they just hang it but they can be written off as like a tax cost if they no longer stay on the platform. So now all these things are being taken off platforms.
Does he mean Willow, the old movie?
So they made a TV series of that, and then they just it was there for like a few months, and then they're like, it's not doing very well. See ya. So basically, the ultimate conclusion is obviously it's not any one of these things; it's all of these things combined. But I definitely thought it was interesting, and I'm just really excited. Both that streaming has now turned out to not be profitable, so they have to figure out a different way of doing it, because it might mean that we have to start paying more for these things, which means that a value will be assigned back to these things, and they will become...
Only if people pay.
They will become... Well, they'll, ultimately...
I ain't paying.
I mean...
I'll never watch another movie again in my life. I'll just stay on YouTube.
I just feel like it's conditioning, just
with
like
my ad blocker.
Just like it's Marvel conditioning, is like if you can get conditioned to superhero films, you get fed superhero films, you start to only want to see superhero films. Well, if you get conditioned to expect to pay $0, then that's all you're going to pay. But if all the different platforms start saying, okay, here's some premium content you have to pay more for if you want it to watch it now, and maybe you can wait 6 months, but it's going to be 6 months before it comes to the other bit of our platform, or actually we now is just going to start releasing things in theaters again. And so you can wait for it to come on our streaming, but you got to wait 6 months, not a day, or it's not the same day. So don't get me wrong, of course the people are going to reject that, but it's not going to be, you can't wholeheartedly completely reject that. And I also think that there will be people that the support will kind of outweigh the rejection. I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
I think what will happen is movies will become a thing of the past. We'll no longer have full-length content. Everybody, 20 years from now, we'll only be watching, 5-minute videos, 10-minute videos on YouTube, maybe a little bit longer, but it'll all just be on YouTube, and nobody will be bothering to watch these full-length things anymore. It'll be series. There'll still be 1 hour series.
I don't think so, because you've got to remember that YouTube have tried both of those things with not super success. Yeah. Their YouTube not originals yet. Didn't really work for them.
Yeah, but that was them making full-length content, right?
No, that was making TV series. For instance, Cobra Kai became a huge hit on Netflix, but YouTube commissioned that and ran 1 or 2 seasons first, and nobody gave a shit because that's not the people that consume YouTube necessarily. I just want to see these things be I'm so glad to see the death of superhero films. Thank God.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to see the death of sort of franchises as well, and reboots and remakes.
It's really sad to see what's happened with Star Wars.
Well,
we called it on this show. We called it.
I took it too far.
Yeah, they took it too far. But it was the prediction. The prediction was they're just going to, because they don't care about they own the IP, but they don't care about the franchise, and they just want to wring it out for every dollar they can. So they're just going to keep on making them until they're no longer profitable. Yep. But they're going to become less profitable as people get sick of them, and but the quality will just get worse and worse and worse. And I made a promise to myself after Star Wars, the last time I'll pay.
The Last Jedi.
And I did not pay ever since then. Shout out to Shimmy Sheem on Kick, our second ever Kick commenter. If you guys don't know what Kick is, it's a live streaming platform. Similar to Twitch and so forth, but I think it's a bit more liberal on on its rules. It's a bit more loose apparently. So Kick, shout out to Shimmy Sheem, and also James Sheen, who is also watching as well. Thanks for tuning in, mate. And Lynette Harris as well. Thanks for tuning in. Love it. And Joanna Sequa. I've heard that name somewhere before. Shout out to Joanna. James Sheen points out that babies are bald. It's true. So casting Brad Pitt as a baby, highly inappropriate. Yeah, and Darren Moss is pointing out as well that a Fast and the Furious is exactly that, a steaming pile of dung. The difference with Fast and the Furious is that ever since episode 2, ever since the second movie, it was a steaming pile of dung. The worst one was when the Tokyo Drift. When it got to Tokyo, and I watched the opening scene of Fast and the Furious, like the very first one was okay. It was all right. It was not bad. It was interesting enough. Second one, I think that was all right. And then I think after that was Tokyo Drift. And the opening like race is these people and they're all cool badasses and everybody's real stern and everybody talks like a fucking dickhead, and then they have their super cool race, which is actually just a really dangerous race, you know, risking the lives of innocent bystanders, civilians. And then I remember there was like a bridge, like a bridge, I can't remember what they call them, like a bridge that opens and closes to let tall boats through. And the car, you know, somebody gets across the bridge and then the next car behind him decides to go anyway, and he uses it like a ramp and he launches up into the sky and his car flies over the other car, which was on the ground, and ends up landing in front of him. And I was like, that is fucking dumb. Not only would everybody in that car be dead, there is no possible way the car is going to go faster in the air than the other car on the ground. It just doesn't make any sense that it would overtake it in the air.
It definitely wouldn't overtake it. But
definitely wouldn't overtake it. It's not aerodynamically designed to be a plane. It's designed to be a car.
In defense of that scene, it was cool when Blues Brothers did it.
Well, Blues Brothers, though, is a comedy.
It also didn't overtake another car.
And it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like it's meant to be a cool, crazy car crash adventure story.
The ramp.
You know, whereas
it did appear it really did jump it. I don't understand.
That's the other thing, too. As far as Blues Brothers, I bet they took a real car and launched it over a ramp.
Yeah.
Because that was cool. And that's way cooler. Whereas like a CGI car with CGI people doing dumb CGI bullshit... you know.
Well, you want to know the crazy thing about Tokyo Drift?
What?
In context of the Fast and Furious franchise, franchise, it's been re-examined.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's actually a good one. Of the whole,
now
and they've re-examined it, and they've been like, hey, you know how we used to say this was shit?
Yeah.
It's actually quite good.
Yeah.
But that's only in context of the nonsense that sort of came after that.
Yeah.
Will Stone, the tag partner of my close personal friend Alex Savage, is like the Fast and Furious franchise is like his favorite franchise.
Right.
But he does acknowledge that it is fucking stupid as well.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is that if you celebrate things that are just like, yeah, we all have those things. But like, for instance, I think, like a cheesy B horror film that costs, like nothing to make, and then you kind of like it and celebrate its cheese and know it's fucking stupid, but still enjoy it. That's fine. But this is a $300 million studio film that's released in the widest, in 4,000 cinemas in America and all the other countries and all the thing, and championed to be like top tier.
Yeah.
And we're going, well, we love it because it's fucking stupid. And it's like, no, you can't apply the same rules to that one.
Doesn't work.
There's this celebration of shit, like the shittening of franchises, but also just shitty films like Fast and Furious didn't deserve to have a film after the second one, but people kept going to it. But that's what they talked about. Sequelitis. It used to be that each sequel would make you could predict it would make half as much as the original successful thing. So no sequels would really ever go past the second one. They go, cool, we did one, we did a really good one.
We did one, then we milked it,
and then
now we're moving on.
And now we've got to think of something new.
Yeah.
And then what happened in the late or early 2000s is sequels started making more money than the ones before it. And so studios were like, oh.
Shout out Terminator 2.
Okay, I see. And Terminator 2 is probably a good example of, something that was like ludicrously
Aliens
popular. JC bringing it home. But like, then they did make another bunch of Terminators. Like they did make another 3 or 4 Terminators.
They were all
sucked
shit.
ass.
Yeah. Like,
but
because Terminator 3,
that's the one with
they took the piss out of they took the piss out of Terminator 2 and Terminator 3.
That's right.
And that's not on. Like he comes and he puts on some like Elton John style sunglasses and it goes din 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 inappropriate and he takes them back off because he's gone into a gay bar with he's got like chaps and all that stuff to get his costume. It's taking the piss out of the coolness of Terminator 2. Yeah. So that's where they lost me and it was all right.
Terminator 3 wasn't that bad in context of some of the later Terminators, but again, that's the problem.
That's the same thing. Yeah.
That's exactly the problem. So, but yeah, look, I think it's encouraging to see that people are losing interest in all of these things. It's just like, I'm not sure why it took 20 years.
Well, I was doing my best.
As opposed to say
to 10. Discourage people.
10 years? Absolutely. But 20
supply
years,
and demand. By watching that shit, you're demanding the supply of more of that shit.
James Cameron, the master of the sequel, he is absolutely the man that has made the best sequels of all time.
Yeah.
That's an interesting moniker. He's also made the highest grossing films of all time, but definitely the idea that he's made the best sequels ever. And I don't think anyone can touch that.
Yeah. Although that Titanic 2 was not very good. It had Leonardo DiCaprio trapped in an air bubble underneath because he floated down after letting go of Rose and he sank down, but he was actually still alive. And because it was so cold, what that does is it slows your heart rate right down, which meant he could survive with no oxygen for a long time underwater. And he slowly sank to the bottom of the ocean there 4 kilometers down, and he went into the Titanic and got into an air bubble in there where he met another woman who had also survived, and they then had to try and create a family, and they were using moss to farm oxygen and so on, but it wasn't very good.
They lived a whole life down there.
They did.
A short life. What did he die of hypothermia though?
Oh, mate, he would die.
The bubble down.
Oh, he would die from the crushing pressure in about 20 meters down or something.
Course, yeah, I forgot.
That would squish him. But yes, I landed an ad. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I certainly hadn't shot it last time. I landed an ad and we've shot it now, and it paid pretty good. It was about $5,000 for a day. That's all right. And all I had to do for that was humiliate myself on national television, getting my schlubby, hairy, fat man boobs out, and I'm sitting there, I'm reading a newspaper, all naked and hairy, and while somebody is shaving something into my disgusting hairy back. And possibly I'm in blackface because they tanned me up and gave me brown contact lenses and dyed my hair and beard black.
An object of ridicule.
An object of ridicule.
You got paid $5,000 to be an object of ridicule
on
for the
national
nation.
television. Yeah, but actually I haven't seen it yet. So if anybody's seen it, you let me know and send it out to me. Send me a screenshot at least because I've been too busy and I don't really watch much television, broadcast television. So
well, you know
I haven't
what would
had
be
the chance
even
to see
worse
it yet.
is if the ad has come out and they decided your scene was too disgusting.
And they were just like, yeah.
And too distracting.
Yeah.
And therefore cut that bit.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you still got paid.
I still got paid. I mean, to be honest, if they didn't play it and I don't have to look like a fat, hairy piece of shit on the on national television, then, that's actually not that bad for me. I still got paid. But yeah, they asked me if it was okay at the time. They were like, cool, so yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a spray tan, we're going to dye your hair darker, and we're going to give you some brown eyes. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, sure, that's okay. And then later on, I was like, wait a fucking minute. Is this cultural appropriation? Are they turning me into a brown person, like, for this ad? And I was like, whatever.
Well,
if Robert Downey Jr. can get away with it, so can Harley Neville. That was my logic. So maybe they dropped it because they're like, hey, actually, this is culturally insensitive.
Yeah. That is possible. That is possible.
The reason why they had to do that was because they needed to match me to another guy who was supposed to look like me, kind of like we're sort of twins or brothers. Yeah. And they were like, let's try and match them up. And, he was a bit darker, a bit browner than me with brown eyes and all that. So
he was a Pacific Islander.
He was a Pacific Islander.
so that's why they did that.
So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, let me know if you see that.
Darren Moss asks, has the Saw franchise been going longer than Fast and Furious? Well, they're probably neck and neck at this point.
I think that Fast and Furious is older, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, the new Saw came out. I don't imagine you saw that.
Absolutely not. I saw the first Saw, and that was enough Saws for me to see.
I saw the first, like...
Maybe I watched the second one.
4?
Yeah, I watched Hostel and Saw all at around that time, you know?
Yep.
And then I was like, cool, I think I've probably got my fill of that, of this torture porn. This disturbing torture porn. Also, it's become less interesting for me because when that stuff came out originally, like Hostel, when it first came out, it was like, oh yeah, that's like, you know, really creepy and disturbing, and that's really fucked up. But nowadays, it's like, actually, that's creepy and disturbing and fucked up and totally based on reality. And there are actually places out there where people are murdering people and torturing people on live streams, and it does exist on the dark web somewhere. That does exist, and it's quite disturbing. And actually, by making these movies, potentially we're just breeding more of that, you know, encouraging and enabling more of that, maybe giving people ideas, you know, fucked up people.
That's really creepy and disturbing and fucked up. But have you guys heard of climate change?
well, what? Why climate change?
Because that's way more disturbing.
Well,
and
I
creepy
agree.
And fucked up.
I agree, and I voted accordingly. Speaking of voting, I did vote. I vote green because of the environment. Because if the world has, if civilization has a future, it's a future with green governments worldwide. Because we can't keep going the way we're going. But sadly, New Zealand has taken a horrible swing to the centre right, and they've voted in the national government, who unfortunately had to form a coalition with ACT, who are the even further right,
who are like essentially the like a collective party now, sort of most like Donald Trump, like as in their kind of
who ACT are,
like they're sort of their discourse is all about getting the extreme right, sort of leading up to this election in terms of what they're talking about and such. Just like disturbing. So they're in now. They're in power.
It's sad. It's sad. It's not because
to quote Donald Trump, sad.
Yeah. Well, it is sad because, like, for example, there was a clean car rebate, which meant that if you buy an EV in New Zealand, you could get a government rebate to encourage you to do that. And likewise, if you wanted, or on the flip side, if you wanted to buy like a big gas guzzling truck, that would come with extra fees, right? Because the idea here is communally, we all need to work together to reduce our emissions. And that's one way to incentivize people to go and get clean cars as opposed to, you know, dirty big trucks and stuff like that. Well, National sort of marketed that as a ute tax, they called it, as in they're saying that like trucks and all that, basically you buy a truck and you're subsidizing an EV. And if you live in the countryside and EV is not that useful for you, so say you're a farmer, for example, you need a big truck, your truck costs more so that city slick and fucking townies can have their EVs driving around Ponsonby with their lattes, you know? And so that was kind of how it was marketed, you know, to these farmers to piss them off and rile them up. Well, plus also they were pissed off about paying more for their trucks so that the fucking townies could have their EVs. But ultimately, you know, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette, and that's, you know, we're going to get there eventually. EV trucks are on their way. But so anyway, the point is that they got their way, and so at the end of this year, what's going to happen is they're taking away that EV rebate, and they're making it easier to buy gas guzzling cars. So the inevitable future of transport is electric. It's already happening. It's beyond, you know, it's beyond a doubt it's happening now. But the national government is now dragging their feet, slowing down that process, and they're going to make it cheaper to buy a big gas guzzler and more expensive to buy an EV. So good work, New Zealand. Way to hurry us towards the oblivion with your voting. Well done. I think a lot of people associated the Labour Party, who was in charge all the way through COVID and all that, they associate Labour with the trauma of lockdowns, of you know, vaccinations, of
the trauma of getting vaccinated.
Yeah, the trauma of getting vaccinated.
The trauma of being asked to get a vaccination,
despite all being vaccinated for a million other things already.
But the trauma of the new vaccination.
Yeah.
The absolute trauma of being vaccinated against a virus that brought the world to its knees. Yeah. The trauma of that was far too much for us New Zealanders to bear.
But they associate that trauma with the party that was in power.
Yes. Yes.
And get rid of them. And it's a similar thing to what happens after war. They vote out the leaders. So that happened to Winston Churchill. He was a great leader in England. You know, England, a lot of people in England wanted to give up and surrender to the Nazis, work with the Nazis. And Churchill was like, no, we're not doing that. And he kind of rallied the nation. And, you know, all of Europe was conquered. And here was England, hardy old, merry old England, holding out under the stern leadership of Winston Churchill. And then, you know, they win the war with the help of many other nations, obviously. They resist. And then next election, after the war, you're out, Churchill. We're done with you. And it's a common thing, apparently. So basically, COVID is our war. And that's why the Labour government got voted out immediately after it sort of finished all of that stuff.
Also, sadly, you know,
not that I voted Labour, I vote Green.
Sort of left-wing policies are very uncool and sensible.
Yeah.
And these things don't, for instance, you don't want to pay more tax until you're in hospital with cancer and that tax has funded a new form of cancer treatment.
Yeah.
That has been established in the hospital because of the funding that your tax paid, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you say, sorry, there's no tax cuts, you go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's shit.
I want my cake and I want to eat it.
Because I don't have cancer right now, so I don't have to worry about my health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that with Labour's policies are always kind of uncool.
For the greater good.
Untrendy policies. That everyone's sort of oh, well, that doesn't help me today. Or in my mind, that doesn't help me today. Sadly, we are allegedly going to be introducing these fucking dumbass tax cuts, which we're going to put $250 more in your pocket a fortnight.
If you're rich. If you're not rich, it's $2 a week.
Yeah.
It is. It's on a scale.
Yeah,
the less you
crazy.
earn, the less you get. So the rich people are going to get bigger tax cuts than the poor people.
But the way they're paying for these tax cuts, because we're in a recession and because there's not you know, there's not heaps of money in the treasury to be giving out tax cuts to people, which is, again, this is why you don't do tax cuts in a recession. But because we're in a pre-recession, the tax cuts, one way the tax cuts are going to be paid for is an influx of incredibly rich foreigners buying houses here. And they're like, don't worry, we put the cap at $2 million for the house or something like that, of how much they have to pay for a house.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, $2 million is the price of a shithole house in a decent suburb in Auckland. So
the average is 1.2 million.
Oh, sorry, 1.2 million.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a 3-bedroom house in Mount Albert, which is not the best suburb, not the worst suburb. But basically, all the housing prices are decent houses are there or more. And so all this means is that a bunch of people a bunch of foreigners are going to buy the houses, hence driving up the price of all the other houses.
And the Kiwis can't. The Kiwis who don't have houses.
The lower tier houses are going to go, cool. So now these are more valuable. Thank you, all these foreigners, making it less accessible to buy a house.
Yeah, for the average Kiwi.
And then all these other plus $2 million houses, which are most of the sort of close to town suburbs, are going to be pushed over $2 million. Are going to be bought by these foreigners, and essentially it's just going to create more people renting and more landlords and more incredibly rich foreigners having houses and renting them out to New Zealanders. It's the opposite of what we want. And somehow the New Zealand, have not, well, some of us have, and this has been documented, and yet we just go tax cuts.
Yeah, well, the thing is...
tax cuts, though. It's almost like people aren't thinking of...
No, it's because people are not thinking of the greater good. They're thinking of themselves. They go, okay, cool. So I can have $50 a week in my bank. Okay, that's fine.
Or I can own a house in 5 years' time.
But the thing is, right, is that's all well and good. That's all well and good. But me personally, I don't mind paying taxes because you got your taxes, right? What do those taxes pay for? Okay, they pay for education and healthcare and stuff like that. Now, I don't need education. I'm extremely educated. No, I don't need education. I'm not studying anything like that. I'm not currently sick.
Did you say you're extremely educated?
Yeah. It's a joke for the listeners. I'm extremely educated. I don't need education. I'm currently healthy. I don't need that, right? But here's the thing. I don't mind paying my taxes because I don't want to live in a country full of sick, stupid people, right? I don't want to live in a country full of sick, stupid people. So let's pay the taxes, and then I'm surrounded by healthy, smart people, healthy, educated people. Cool. My country, and therefore me personally, my life is better as a result. And about the house thing, so this election was a funny one for me because
it's good for you. This house thing could be good for you.
Well, that's the thing. Like for me, it was a funny one, right? Because I was like, okay, look, I have just bought my first house, or I'm very much in the final stages of buying my first house ever with my brother, and that's a good thing, right? But I still voted Green, right, for the greater good of humanity and for the better, I think, for our country as well, better for our country, but not for me personally. Me personally, I'd be better off as a homeowner, I guess, to vote for National because supposedly it's gonna make my house go up in value faster. Why? Because they're doing, like you said, like getting selling more houses to overseas investors and stuff like that. So, from my perspective, it's kind of a win-win, really. It's like, look, either the people I vote for get in, and the greater good that's great, and I can feel happy about that and happy about the environment, or the house that I've got goes up in value faster, and sure, it makes it more unaffordable for everybody else, but I've already got mine, so fuck y'all, So it's kind of win-win, really.
The other problem too is National have never been, nor sort of being inclined to be kind to the arts and the film industry.
That's really bad for me because one of my main employers, the film festival I work for, is a charitable trust
and is reliant on
a lot of different grants. Exactly, and so that is presumably going to suffer under the national government.
Absolutely,
and alongside it, the whole industry, because I'm pretty sure they want to reduce things like the incentives for international productions to come here because they want the industry to be robust and look after itself and be financially viable by itself with no government things.
Statements that they made, and it was quite interesting to read a sort of like essentially these questions got put out for a spokesperson from each party to answer, and obviously Labour and Greens had good answers about Labour talked about what they'd done and what they intended to do. Greens talked about what was important to them and what they wanted to do, and National talked about how they were going to do nothing or take things away.
Or undo the good work that has already been done.
ACT talked about how things being funded were racist and an affront on sensibilities as New Zealanders. And those are now the two people that are in charge of the film industry. And in fact, I believe National said that they would be conducting a review. Reviews, like, essentially cost money, and then they take that. Then based on the review, they go, "Cool. Well, you don't really need this, 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 and this. So we're going to take that out of your budget." That's normally generally what happens in reviews with a right-leaning government.
Do you want to know something else disgusting? The leader of the National Party, Christopher Luxon, bald. He looks like an egg.
In fact, I joined Crack an Egg on Christopher Luxon's dumb bald head day.
Yeah, on Facebook, the Facebook event. Yeah. Bald people. Yuck.
Look, this is actually a huge blow for you in terms of the, like, we're talking about the sort of...
Well, isn't it inspiring that, he should really be a hero of mine because, for a bald man to become the leader of the country, he must have overcome...
He ran in New Zealand as well for a whole bunch of years.
He did, but now he's the leader of the whole country, And he's a bald man.
With no political acumen.
Even though he had that, that huge weight, that huge anchor slowing him down of being a bald man in a hairy-headed man's world, and he overcame all of that.
I think it's going to lead to more
hate on bald people.
I was going to say more hate crimes against bald people such as yourself, and people, especially in our community. Yeah, like maybe not in the wider community, but in our community specifically. You're going to be, especially if you go full, you're going to have to keep the sides on for a while, because if you fully shave it like he does, there's going to be comparisons. There's going to be hate crimes perpetrated on you.
We could do a skit where I could play Christopher Luxon.
You could actually, and there, there's going to be resentment towards you. Not even on a subconscious level, a bias against you when you walk into those film industry events and stuff. people were going to be secretly, hating you.
Yeah, well,
and want you to die.
Not only am I bald, but I'm white as well. And in the film industry these days, male, bald, white, and male.
The three worst things you could be.
You don't want to be that.
Well, actually, in this government, you might want to be.
Well, with
again.
This government, yeah. Like I said, win-win.
Swings and roundabouts.
Win-win. Speaking of bald, you might recall that last New Year's, the listeners might recall that I went to a party and was a little bit uncomfortable because I realised I was the only bald man at the party, and and I felt a little bit out of place.
You're looking for one of your just one bald brother to give a little nod to.
Yeah, like a little, hey man, yeah, I see you. Actually, no, it's more like a token thing. I'm the token bald guy. Hey man, there's only room for one bald guy at this party. So
we see you, we hear you.
Yeah. No, well, I did. I went to another party and there was not one, not two, but seven bald men in attendance. And it was just really heartening to see my people out there, and we weren't the majority. Obviously, the hairy heads had us, had us outnumbered. Yeah. But we were at, nearing nearly sort of half the men in the room were bald, and it was just really great to see that representation out there. Although I did notice that there was, I was still the shortest bald man at the party, and I did get a few sneers, a few looks, because I don't like to acknowledge it much, but within the bald community there is still some heightism as well. So even amongst the the bald brotherhood. But yes, anyway, so that's a little update.
No short bald kings here.
Yeah, no short bald kings. Yeah, that should have been the name of this episode: Short Bald King. Yeah. So, I've got one last little, very short story about the
better be short.
Airbnb for the movie that we shot.
Yep.
I did try to get a really beautiful place. There was a beautiful cabin with an amazing view nearby. Had a beautiful, perfect waterfall and excellent. It was just excellent for our filmmaking because you could just walk out of this cabin, and then you're in some wee bush that you could use for what we were doing. So I contacted them. And they were like, absolutely not. You cannot film here because this is a yoga retreat. This is a place of peace, a hallowed, blessed land, and you cannot film your splatter horror found footage film here.
Fucking yogis.
Fucking yogis. You woke liberal lefties. So
snowflake yogis.
Yeah. So no, you can't make a movie about murder here. So...
You'll upset the tranquility.
You'll upset the trees. Fucking hippies.
Trees are sentient and listening.
Yeah.
And can be affected by the moods of the people who dwell within them. Fucking yogis.
Well, on fucking yogis, we'd better wrap up this episode of the Guy and Harley podcast.
Yep. I've got my... Got to get my yoga session in later today.
Yeah, I've got my yoga class coming up next.
Yeah. So I've got to get my hot yoga. What is it? Is it hot yoga? What is it called?
Is it called hot yoga? No, well, they do call it hot yoga, but the other name for it is Bikram.
Yeah, I've got to get my Bikram in today.
Yeah, Bikram yoga. Yeah, cool. All right, well, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure you use the links in the description. Make sure you hit thumbs up and all that stuff, and we'll be back on the next episode of the Guy and Harley podcast.
See you later.
Hold it before you click it. Wait.